Welcome, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto. How you doing? I'm Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. Welcome into the chat. We got Hexican Michelle. We got Tyndall Poker sitting here talking about communists, and a lot of other people coming in as well. So do us a favor, and am I allowed to say peg the like button, or will somebody come and murder me at my home? Peg, smash, whatever it is you want to do. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight, and we basically labeled the stream. Is it time for PulseChain's time in the crypto spotlight? We've got all these things going on right now. Most of them are, things that people want to censor and not talk about and, block you and eradicate you if you speak of them. And there's very, very fiery opinions one way or the other. But one thing is for certain, this dumpster fire of a blockchain that we're in right now certainly has people talking and people trading, and the PulseX buy and burn is skyrocketing. And there's a lot of action on chain. There's a lot of action IRL. Again, we're seeing these Twitter spaces, X spaces, whatever, every single day that are people with different views. Ewok, I know you and I both watched a bit of Matty Allen's stream last night with a variety of guests from kind of all around the PulseChain ecosystem, like Crispy, Kareem. I just realized that sounded like Krispy Kreme. They should actually, could we get a Crispy and Kareem show called Krispy Kreme? I think that's what we need, guys.
There you go. That's your new hit.
Yeah, there we go, boys. I just made that up for you. It's Fast Abdul, of course, was there, and then Sami popped in a little bit later. I thought it was a good, thoughtful stream. It was almost 3 hours. It was good to kind of see some conjecture, and there's going to be all kinds of thoughts. I mean, this is, for my money's worth, the most tumult that we've seen in this ecosystem ever. I think the most, I don't even know what to say. I can't just say straightforward FUD. I mean, we're gonna get to all that, but I have my reasoning that this is just seems way, way different than anything that we've had regarding SEC, mainstream influencers hating on us, whatever else it would be, Interpol bullshit, whatever. So we're going to get to all that. Welcome all you guys in the chat. Again, hit the like button. We appreciate you being here. Ewok, how are you feeling this evening? I know it's a lot to take in, as we've been talking about.
So, yeah, it's a lot to take in. It's kind of, what's the word? I guess disheartening sometimes when you see the interworkings of the FUD. And like you said, this, I don't know that it's the worst, but it's the most memorable. Well, it's the most recent. Well, yeah. Usually what happens is, 5-6 months go by and everybody kind of forgets about the last one. I can't remember what the last one was. What was it? You got to think back pretty hard. So hopefully this is just another bump in the road, part of the growing pains, part of the brand new blockchain. That's my hope. I hope we can all move past it and continue to work together. I hate to see when a community so strong at one point gets so divided and fractured into different groups. And, I get it. You're always going to have those interworkings of different projects and things like that. But, ideally everybody gets along and goes about their business and doesn't really care what the other side does, as long as it's not hurting everybody. So that's my concern. Other than that, yeah, I mean, it's just another week of red candles, of a lot of things being down. We're waiting for Ethereum to go. I think that's what everybody's kind of just holding on for, to see some action out of the main coins, because we know once they start to pop off, it becomes our turn pretty soon. So, yeah, hanging in there, man. That's all we can do.
Well said on that last point, and I think that should really be the headline. I mean, even though we'll talk about like some of the stuff within the community, this blockchain, pDAI, whatever tonight, I think the headline still has to be, Ethereum's $2,000, and it's factual. So as much as you want to have a microscope in on this ecosystem, and it's very easy to get lost in following people and going back and forth on Twitter, listening to the spaces, watching the stuff on YouTube, people that you always thought were your friends, they don't agree with you anymore, and just like all this stuff. Ethereum's $2,000, and there's just no real way that not just PulseChain, but a lot of these altcoins, different altcoin blockchains, whatever it is, are going to have a lot of firepower behind them as long as we're not risk on, So We're still waiting on it. I didn't think we'd be doing it on March 26th of 2025, but we are. I guess we can look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. I wasn't even prepared to do so because I haven't been thinking about them at all. And I wonder if anybody within this ecosystem has even been I have not been following any of the greater crypto space. I mean, I have no idea what kind of stuff's going on. I think BitBoy's in jail now or something, which
You hear that today? Yep.
yeah.
For emailing a judge or something. I read a very brief headline. I don't know what it was actually for,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I heard he ended up in jail.
No. So is the next chapter. We got Bitcoin at just under 87K right now. I mean, as far as I can remember, it's been consolidating in this range for a while and really fine. I mean, like bullish, hanging out where it is right now. You know, we never saw it go back into those low 70 numbers, which I think we probably had allowance to continue on the same, trend as far as this bull cycle with Bitcoin even getting down into that 72K region. We never really saw that. We saw about mid 70s and it's been hanging out here for a bit. ETH, it's so weird because it's I'm sorry, we'll finish off with Bitcoin. I didn't mean to. You can I'm sorry, we'll stay on there for a minute, but just as far as Bitcoin, I mean, what do you think about where we're at right now? Because this is kind of mirroring, it's still mirroring things that we've seen before. Again, as much like uncertainty and all these things that have been happening in PulseChain, looking at Bitcoin, things are exactly, I think, where they need to be. And I think we're still looking pretty bullish.
Yeah, Bitcoin's looking fine. I don't remember when I drew this trend line on here. It's been probably several weeks. It was probably back in here when we were way over it. But it's holding that respect. It's respecting that trend line. The long term, ever since November of 2023, this upswing. So as long as it doesn't break too far below it or considerably below it, I think it's on the right path. And it sure is like just grazing that trend line. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I know there's still a bunch of people buying it and a lot of people I think they're waiting for the money printing to begin wave before they jump back in. I know there were some people taking profits up in the $100,000 range, waiting for a dip, and we'll see if they're the ones buying back in now. I would imagine they are slowly, but yeah, it looks fine. I don't see anything too concerning. There's nothing alarming. It doesn't look like it's dropped below any kind of technical support as far as this line goes. So
yeah,
looking fine.
Yeah, I think it is hanging out right where we want to be. And then Ethereum right at 2K. It's been interesting because it's come up over 2K. It actually touched 2,100 the other day, a real big move for ETH. But yeah, so that's the thing, is will it turn 2,000 into, a new floor instead of it being resistance again? Because it went the whole way down into the 1,700s over the last couple of weeks. Just, frankly, abhorrent. I mean, what its performance this cycle so far. Yeah. That's not a news story, but yeah, what do you think here with ETH? Because, it basically seems like everybody's written it off, totally forgotten about it at this point. I mean, that's kind of isn't that really the true like death of something, is irrelevance, not necessarily like everybody hating it is practically loving it. So
yeah,
that to get to where we may get to with PulseChain here in a minute about everybody hating it, why that can be bullish. But with ETH, it's just kind of like nobody gives a shit, including Vitalik. And I don't know. I've been saying it for a while now. I'm starting to think that it's too late in the game for it to really make up and have a good ratio versus BTC this cycle. That I don't mean that I don't think it can get to a dollar value that can still help out a lot of people. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm just, how late do we get in the cycle to where that ratio is just not going to get to a place where it's gotten to in the past? That's just what I'm thinking.
You mean because they run together usually? I think that's what you're probably referring to. When one takes off, the other one does too. And it's going to be so much harder for Ethereum at this point to outpace it, I think is what you're saying. And I kind of agree with that. I don't know what kind of numbers we'll see on the ratio. And it's in what looks to be a very weird kind of critical spot. With Bitcoin, we've been going up only a couple dips, but we're way above where, people thought we should be, right? This is more of an uptrend and down, it's still up. And when you look at Ethereum, well, it's kind of the opposite, because it's just down. And
Right. Yeah.
you know, I think we're at a really critical spot for it. I think like 1900 is probably one of those levels where we really have to be careful and watch. If it breaks below 1900, it could be a free fall down to, like, this bottom was 17 something. So
Right.
if it doesn't at least hold that, now you look at it on the other hand and be like, well, this looks like a pretty good uptrend. It's only what, nine, you know, it's 15 days old. So it's not really quite enough to go on yet, but the uptrend that we're seeing here looks good. However, we're still at a very critical level. So, I mean, kind of you take it one way or another. When you look at the ratio, yeah, I mean, we're still at 0.022. So
Bad.
very low, damn near bottom, you know, 0.021 was the bottom here. So it hasn't gained much ground, to your point, that we really want to see. And you know what, when I, like I said, when they run, they usually run together. I don't know how much it can outpace it. The other point to that, though, is it can double, right? ETH can easily double, get to 4,000. Wouldn't take a whole lot of energy for Bitcoin to double. It's going to take a ton to get to 160,000, 172,000 at this point. So I don't know how that works as the ratio plays out. If the dollar value really, how well that's calculated in, I'm sure it is. And if this doubles before Bitcoin doubles, does it make a huge kind of leap in the ratio? I would imagine it would. So, you know, again, I think these are some really critical levels for Ethereum. And that 1900 is probably our key, and then we're only 100 above it. So hope and pray that it stays there and just keeps on this nice little uptrend it's created. A couple pullbacks aren't a bad thing, but as long as it continues, you know, should be okay.
Yeah, and just what you said, $4,000 ETH, that's music to everybody's ears at this point. I mean, that would be a panacea, like, for the masses at this point. I would
Right?
be pinching myself. Crypto7, Arthur Hayes is predicting 5K ETH before $300 Solana. I mean, I think that's probably likely too, and I think it might be saying more about Solana than it is Ethereum, honestly. But yeah, I'm with you there. And Arthur Hayes, he's an interesting guy. He kind of goes back and forth on stuff, but yeah, I definitely could see that too. So interesting stuff. And yeah, we'll see if Solana season comes back. I'm not so sure how it's going to at this point, but yeah, any kind of final thoughts on the regular market though, Ewok, or can we get into all the other stuff now?
I say let's get into the other stuff.
All right. Well, let's look at
PulseChain.
Yep. We'll look at the charts here first. We got Pulse just hanging out at all-time lows, essentially. I think it's the lowest that we've ever been on the Pulse token while we've been live on air. I can't remember where we were at last week, but yeah, it was probably close to this anyway. So yeah. I don't know. We got Pulse at 4 zeros and a 2.7 right now. I did just DCA right before this, so watch out. We were probably going to have a falling knife here into tomorrow. We'll go down another 25%. Pulse X right now, of course, you know, it's been ever since the whole I don't know if you guys remember this. It was a month ago. This thing happened where the SEC case got dismissed and things felt good for about 5 minutes or so. We actually had Pulse X reach and actually surpass Pulse parity, which was freaking amazing. I mean, that's, of all the things that have happened in this ecosystem for 2 years, Pulse X's performance has been awesome. Obviously, I have no complaints there at all. It's at 4 zeros and a 2.27 right now. We have Ink token at $1.39. Hex has been hit and butchered pretty bad over the last few days. Hex is at 0061, and eHex, I've been using Go Pulse lately, so they won't show it because they don't like to. I don't know. It's
0016.
Okay. I figured it was probably right around 002 or something. So I bought all 4 of those earlier today. So yeah, just keep on buying lower and buying lower. But yeah, what do you think? Crypto7 says he blames the Vietnamese guy. So what do you make of this? Let's look at Pulse, because I mean, this is rough. I mean, this is pretty rough right now. Again, we got PulseX chart looks good. If you've only been DCAing into Pulse and this ecosystem's entire existence, then I don't know why you'd be doing that, but you'd be feeling it a little bit worse than if you were DCing into everything. But yeah, what do you make of where we're at right here?
Well, I think you're pretty right on when you say this is probably the lowest it's been since we've streamed. Obviously last week was the 19th, and the low for that day was 2859. So we're actually 0.00005 lower than that. So yeah, all-time lows. There isn't a whole lot to say. I think there's, with everything that's going on, you know, like pDAI or not like pDAI, there's obviously some extraction happening, some money being bridged out. That's on chain. There's really no denying that part of it, at least, and it's affecting everything. So I think until things get straightened out or figured out, you know, this could stay ugly at least until then. I'm just,
I mean, it's been ugly for 2 years. Let's make that.
Well, it has. I mean, we have had some nice run-ups and some little bit of rallies. You know, we made it all the way back to sacrifice, you know, a couple times. So, you know, that was just in February. So that's been a year. So for a year, it's been pretty bad. The first year, you know, it was debatable. It didn't perform the greatest, but there were a lot of people that had a lot of coins and a lot of traders and whatnot there. So yeah, this last year though, since March of last year, pretty much it's seen its better days. It's, I hate to look at something and say, oh, well, this doesn't look that bad, but it does. it really does. Hopefully we catch a bottom. I mean, that's what we can really hope for. Some of these levels are being somewhat respected. You know, and I think that is a good thing to keep an eye out for, that you see areas getting bought back up that are being defended. At least we have that currently. If it breaks through there, I don't know. Could be a free fall to Neverland.
Neverland Ranch.
Yeah.
So I
So
don't know if we want to go there.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to find something good to say about the chart.
There's
and
not.
There isn't. I don't want to sugarcoat it.
I will say this though, and I know you alluded to it there. I don't. The pDAI stuff alone is definitely not why we're here. You know, regardless of, you know, I think people make arguments on both sides of that are very good, and I'm not going to claim to have that I definitively know exactly what's going on like so many people are doing, but I think that's a shred of why the price is where it's at right now. I mean, I think we just covered basically why the price is where it is right now in our previous segment, which is that Ethereum's $2,000. And yeah, this is just where we're hanging out right now. So, and really this number, I mean, you and I, Ewok, have talked about this on past streams as far as like, if we would lose that old level of all-time low support of like 0.032 or 1 or whatever it was, many people were looking at 0.28, and that's really kind of where we've been hanging out. I mean, we've even been below there. So
yeah, a little bit.
So they were
even
right
currently.
about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really where we're at. Let me ask you this. Well, okay. I had a couple questions here just to stick just with price charts, which is actually a welcome change to everything else we've been talking about the last few days. We have way low liquidity in this ecosystem, like lower than it's ever been. We've had it pulled for all these different pairs. The yield farms of Pulse and PulseX are pretty much, they're not gone, but they're not worth doing. We've had the ink inflation slashed, the Hex T-share rate has been slashed, all this supply shock. We just had a video upload on the channel about it today. How much of that is why we're here, do you think? Because I think people need to be reminded of that. We did see a crazy supply shock over the last few weeks that with volatility in either direction is going to really impact it. And, you know, of course, we don't see any on the upside yet, but again, Ethereum is $2,000. So what do you, how much of that is it, though?
Well, I mean, so if you want to look at anything positive, I guess that is a really good point that I wasn't thinking. With all the liquidity that has dried up, we could be in a lot worse shape. And it really, I don't think would take a whole lot for it to go on a tear. You know what I mean? With low liquidity comes volatility either way, in either direction. So I don't know that um, it's necessarily a bad thing with the amount of liquidity. Pulse X pairs gone, a lot of ink gone, or pairs with ink gone. So with all of that extracted and only being where we're at, I wasn't even really thinking about it that way. But since you brought it up, it's not terrible, and it could go really quickly. So I think we're just waiting for a spark, something to send it. And once it goes, it could really move quickly. So, yeah, I'm nice. Thank you for bringing that up, because I wasn't even thinking with the low liquidity how quickly things could go one way or another. And I think we maybe should be thankful that we're not a lot lower than we are.
Well, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I mean,
Well, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but
I'm just ready for it. I'm in like FTX November 2022
Yeah.
vibes, walking on eggshells. I feel like right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I still grab my balls in DCA today, but what are you going to do? So can do at this point.
So you can do.
Yeah. And just as a sentiment thing, and this will probably transition us into the pDAI stuff. So it was funny, Richard. I don't have any idea if I sent this to you, and who cares if you can't find it, but you'll know what I'm talking about. He tweeted about the prices, I think, just on Monday, because they were all green for a day. And because you messaged me about this. So I liked that he did that, retweeted it with the rocket emojis. You message me like bottom signal, maybe for the 78,000th time one of us has said to the other bottom signal. But he was obviously mocked by many people, and like, this is a shame, you should be ashamed of yourself, these prices are not to be touted, blah 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 blah. This is why, and this is where we'll temper it tonight, because I don't care to get into it too much, and you probably don't either, and I'm tired of it. But this is why you and I keep getting into it so much, because we both derive, I think, different things from some of our agents' tweets, but then we agree with, like, this one right now when he sends out the prices the other day, that it's more than what meets the eye. It's not just like, oh, hey, we're pumping right now. It could be something else too. But yeah, what did you make of him tweeting that? And I saw many people like retweeting it, mocking him and stuff.
Yeah, any price chart without a whole lot. Let me find it. Like, I don't know what he actually said about it, but
it was just a screenshot. It was just a screenshot of the prices.
No words, no nothing. I found it here. We'll share it. And yeah, it got lots of retweets. Basically, just the screenshot. And yeah, it was green. You had 18% on Pulse. You had 21%, and maybe he was showing us how easy things can move up. That was kind of my guess. Is this near a bottom? Is he pointing something out when there's no words? Yeah, I mean, what's he inferring, right? When there's words, I usually try to take it for face value. But yeah, I don't know. I think he was kind of just showing how easy things can run up if people stay patient. But you're right. He did catch a lot. I know Corey Costa was one of the first ones that was.
That's what I was thinking.
It was the whole, well, Richard, you probably shouldn't be doing that right now, and everything's down so bad, and who knows what he was trying to say. But that's kind of how I took it. Is things can move pretty quickly in this space. Most of us that were here, last cycle saw it, how quickly things can go, and maybe he was kind of foreshadowing of what's to come. I have no idea. What say you? Like, what was your initial reaction when you saw it?
I mean, as you know, but completely disagree with me on every other occasion of Richard Hart tweets. I think that there's more than meets the eye. That he's obviously advertising like the prices are pumping and stuff like that. But I think what he's doing right now with a lot of his tweets is purposefully advertising certain things, and it's, you know, that's what I think, and I think that's what this was too. I just want to say real quick, and you know, feel free to come back and flame me on your next show, Crypto 7, but this is just 100% false. I mean, that's just not true at all. Maybe in like a very small time period, but that's not true. But yeah, I mean, I think he was just showing what the ecosystem is doing right now, and you know, he wants to advertise for stuff, you know, and we're going to get to some of the other stuff he said, because I think he said some really interesting things about Solana lately and how, garbage its narrative was as far as the outages that they've had, but of course it still came back and had a, you know, made a good impact and people bought it and stuff like that. And I think in that tweet, because it was part of like a tweet storm, I think he was comparing it to some of what's going on with PulseChain, not like as in we're having outages. Obviously that's not even remotely the same thing.
Right.
And I'd be in PulseChain all day over Solana, but I think he's just kind of comparing like really good things can come from stuff that narrative wise hadn't looked good. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah. But anyway, that is the PulseChain prices. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or anything to go over there?
No. Just the fact that things can run. We know that. So
Yes.
I think that's kind of what was being shown, and yeah, nothing else really on that one.
Yeah, I think so too. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like. We support you all being here. And, you know, we'll just kind of remind everybody, I guess, maybe remind ourselves, because it's probably going to get testy here in a few minutes, that, you know, we do all within this community agree on an overwhelming majority of principles. You know, I think that's one thing to highlight. And yeah, I mean, you and me were just I'm almost wondering if this was on the air or off the air. It was off the air, but we were talking a minute ago about, like, you know, in people's journey into crypto. I mean, a lot of people in this ecosystem right now probably got in 2021 or later. I saw a guy talking about, it's so funny to, not funny, but it's funny to, I said it again, to see people buying the top of PulseChain in March, like a year ago, basically March of 24, and that was their entrance into the ecosystem. Like, it's crazy to be here this long now and seeing the people have just been in it for a year and bought that top, like in this bull market. But what is my point here? Where was I going with this? When people first get into this crypto journey, they think like, okay, yeah, I'll identify the coins that have value. I'll listen to like influencers, not knowing they're influencers, you know, and I'm talking about like even the big ones, like having no idea that they're getting into these heavily VC backed chains and stuff like that. And then you get like a few years into your crypto journey thinking like, all right, I imagine in 4 years I'll probably be rich. And then it's like, who would think that you're like balls deep in this ecosystem and like you're trying to figure out what this pDAI thing is and these system state copies and P copies, and was not everything caught when they were copied over? Is there an exploit? Isn't there an exploit? Blah 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 blah. Did anybody think that's where their journey was going? Is just what I'm saying. You know, it's just a very strange road that you end up on, I think.
Very strange, and there's a lot to think about when you really peel all the layers back of a full system state fork. And maybe Richard's original comments of, man, software is pretty hard. It is showing its teeth now of you know what really went into it and how much difficulties there were. So anyway,
if that's what's happening, yeah. So I don't know where you want to go with this. I mean, we have, I have walls of paragraphs of stuff to talk about the pDAI stuff over the last few days. Like you said earlier today, I think it might just be best if you want to just go to his Twitter feed and we can just go back maybe to like 3 days ago and just start kind of going down some of the things that he said. And you and I can kind of look at how we interpret them and, you know, argue and kill each other, I guess, by the end of this stream.
No, we're not going to do that, and
we'll try not to.
This is one of the few things that I think we really disagree the most on. So,
well, I guess
where
do you
want to start?
Well, I was going to say, just to kind of lay that out, the disagreements isn't so much like one of us thinks 100% this way, the other one thinks 100% the other way. I'm not claiming to know anything. That's really what I'm saying. And I think it's dangerous to do that. And I think there's a lot of people doing that on both sides of the aisle, frankly. You know, like I even
Yeah.
heard Sami on that Maddie Allen stream last night say, like, because Sami's obviously considered like the scamming pDAI maxi now. And he's like, dude, pDAI people block me because I still say that it's broken right now. You know, like they will block him. Like, so there are extremes at each
Sure.
end, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I agree with the fact that there's something broken. I mean, I think we can both see that there's definitely an issue here.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is like, and maybe that's the first thing we can just talk about, just you and me, is like, whether you see transactions that you believe to be exploiting or not, or movements within the pDAI contract and things. And, you know, you look back to the beginning of the blockchain when, I mean, there was like 18 billion pDAI minted back then, but there was no mention of it or anything for 2 years. Actually, the only mention was Richard Hart showing the chart like 10 times over the course of the last couple of years. But with what's going on right now, I keep losing my train of thought of what direction I want to go here. Okay, what's good is I'm seeing that people are not just talking about, is this an exploitation? Is it an extraction or not? And they're also talking about like solutions to this and how can it be fixed, rather than just, you know, break it. What do we do? Contact MakerDAO. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that there are solutions being talked about.
So since you brought it up just now, and I feel like there was a tweet about that, I feel like there were only 6 billion minted from the fork. Is that not the case?
So minted when it did fork?
Yeah.
I think it was 9, actually. I think 6 or 9, 69.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
One or the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Around
there, though. You're right. Yeah. I may be wrong. Maybe you're right. But it was around that number. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So we started at 6-8 billion, whatever it was, and I think we are up to 24 or 26 currently. So let's dig into that, I guess. Right here, 24 according to this tweet 20 hours ago, there's 24 billion. So do I think it's an exploit? Well, I think someone's taking advantage. I honestly think it's the people from Maker. They're a dev for Maker that knows about the exploit in the system because they're using an old vault, I guess. That's what they're doing. And the way they're doing it is they are using the arbitrage of the Oracle, which is reading improperly. It still thinks that because of the way PulseChain was set up, 1 Ethereum was equal to 1 Pulse when it all came over. So currently, the Oracle thinks that 1 DAI is worth 2,000 and some Pulse. And that's really not the case. It's like 0.000 something. It's a fraction of that. So the people that are doing this are what they're doing is they're borrowing against their own value because the Oracle doesn't understand that the prices don't match, and they're taking advantage of that bad ratio and borrowing against it, pulling value, so that it kind of goes into default. But then at the same time, in the same block, they are bidding to pick it up for pennies on the dollar, which aren't really dollars, but they're fractions of pennies on pennies. So it's costing them very little to win it back. And then once they do that, they win the auction, they get the DAI, they remove it from the system, and that's what they're accumulating, and that's why it's inflating for some reason. I don't understand why there's an inflation on an auction. Maybe I don't fully understand the whole Maker DAO contract and how it works, but that's essentially what they're doing, and it's all because it's out of whack with the Oracle. So is that fixable? Well, I think the Maker, according to a lot of people, that Maker DAO are the only ones that have the keys to this, and they technically could fix it, but will they? And I think that is the golden question. Many people think that Richard has the keys, and that was all taken care of at the fork. But on a true fork, the owners of all the contracts would still have the private keys. So I'm not sure how they would have gained control.
Right. And not only that, but regardless of what you think about anything Richard is saying, it is very good that Richard has nothing to do with pDAI, is not behind pDAI, and is not the one doing it. I mean, that's definitely something that you want to be true, because look at what has happened to other figures like this. Like literally the co-founder of what is his name? I forget, but he was just found dead in Puerto. He was 29, found dead in Puerto Rico just a couple years ago.
Well, the founder of MakerDAO, right?
Yes.
I forget what his name is, but it was he was drowned in Puerto Rico.
So obviously, you don't want to have any attachment to anything like that whatsoever. So I'm glad to hear that Richard doesn't have any attachment to that. But you just said something that I wanted to ask you a question on, about when it was actually forked over. You just said like 3 things I wanted to get into, and I'm losing my train of thought because I'm reading the chat too. I'm forgetting what they are. There was a question here I wanted to see too.
Was it about the contract or
it was NJ Dove. So there's been Twitter spaces about the coin that shall not be named. Somebody speculated that RH may have cut inflation liquidity, so it would be easier that something was going on. Do you mean like the liquidity for trading the token? I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I'm not sure what he means.
Yeah, I don't know if he's talking about the cut inflation liquidity of all of PulseChain, because whenever the inflation and liquidity, like how long ago was that? I think that's when we were talking about the whole system being kind of cut with the hex inflation and the incentive tokens and all of that liquidity being removed, and I think that's what we were talking about then.
Oh, I see. I see what he means. Okay.
So I think what NJ is saying is, maybe is it all kind of tied together? I don't really know. I don't see a correlation between it. I think the inflation was a problem. I think there were some major dumpers that were just farming and dumping, and I think he had to kind of stop the bleeding on it. Was the reason that was done, as well as the hex inflation. So, a lot of things have turned to, I don't want to say deflationary, but they've less definitely, very, very less inflationary with pump.tires. That cut the inflation of PulseChain, because now that is getting burned. You've got the buy and burn mechanism for PulseX, and now incentive has been cut in half, what, 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, I think it's all a net positive. When you have less inflation, obviously, there's less coins. It becomes more scarce. That's how you kind of control the supply and demand of things.
So, looking at some of his tweets, I wish I could remember what I was going to say a minute ago, but maybe you even want to go back a little bit further than this. I don't even know where to go to.
Well, this is 20 hours. So, I mean, we can start back.
Yeah. I don't know where to go. That's probably, I don't know. That's like when he tweeted like 20 times in a day on Sunday or something. I guess maybe one that catches your eye, or one that catches my eye as you slowly go through. Okay, yeah, check that Solana one out, because I just wanted to. That's something I was talking about earlier. So we're just gonna, you know what? Fuck it. This is not a traditional show. We don't have like every segment all figured out. This is a weird show, so we just have to kind of fly by the seat of our pants. So this one was March 23rd. even know when that was anymore, 3 days ago. So he says Solana was totally and completely wrecked, but had so many free press about it being wrecked that they got free lottery ticket towards pumping back up. Didn't matter if the chain froze often or needed rebooted, as long as people kept buying for whatever reason, memes, I guess, number go up. You can even see in my follower numbers here, the stupid pDAI drama, a stupid coin with a grand total of 300K liquidity that only is notable at all because the chart looked great and you retweeted it like 10 times before someone started inflating the crap out of supply at nearly no cost to themselves. Then the old mechanics that made the great chart got nuked. TLDR, being wrecked brings eyeballs. See, this is what I was trying to say to you earlier. Like, I wasn't trying to think of some grand conspiracy. He's literally just saying that being wrecked brings eyeballs. And if you have a good product, feature, good service, technology, you can win big in the end. AKA, this is why he's advertising all this wreckage that is going on right. I mean, he basically just spelled it out to me right there. And then he's tweeting every day, like, look, here we go. Look at the exploiter. Look at the exploiter. You know, I mean, he's saying right here that he's advertising it, you know, and luckily we do actually have a good product, unlike Solana.
Well, but does being wrecked bring eyeballs mean, hey, I'm bringing them to PulseChain? Not necessarily, like, you know, we don't have to think that this was bringing eyeballs to pDAI.
Right.
I think he's trying to bring eyes to his products.
Yes.
And he's saying good product, feature, good service, technology. You know, he's saying PulseChain in general. So maybe that's why he's, you know, talking about it so much, is he is trying to bring eyeballs to our ecosystem. That's how I took it.
I take it the same way. See, when you sit down and you break bread and you read, you know, you get along. Sometimes you just get along. But yeah, that's what I'm taking. I'm not saying like he's saying everybody needs to go buy pDAI, but I mean, I think he's saying like, so I mean, that tweet right there seems like, well, here and now he's retweeting everything that's going on with pDAI. Oh, they're exploding again. And then he made a meme out of it. So people are making the exploiter memes on pump tires. I mean, it's activity.
So he's advertising.
You know?
He's active. Yeah. And you and I have discussed this too. Like all the volume, all the crazy volume, all the discussion, even if it is fighting, then we may not like it. It's active. Like there's a lot going on. There are spaces out the wazoo. I think 24/7 you can probably find a space talking about something that's going on, whether you're on one side or the other. I don't think it really matters. People are talking about it, and I think that's the goal here. He's just post storming to get eyes on what the hell is going on over there. What do these guys do? Like what now, kind of thing. But hey, it brings eyeballs, so hopefully it turns out good. That they do find other things that may have great value. And I still think Hex is probably one of the best, even though the inflation is down right now.
Yeah. Keyword right now also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. And after this, we'll kind of just take turn. Let me just ask you this. And then if you want to go back to like looking at his tweets and pick the ones you want to look at, let's do that. But you just reminded me, Sami, who everybody, you know, hates now. Sorry, Sami, I don't, but I know a lot of people are hating on you right now. I want to know, he's been talking about this. This is an interesting thesis that I think he said, is that he believes that Richard, like a lot of us, expected that Ethereum would not be horseshit this cycle.
Sure.
You know, and that maybe some of what he's doing now, and you can even go back to the pump tires thing, because lest we forget, that tweet came out and that whole thing launched and everybody's like, oh, RH was hacked. What the hell is this? You know, but Sami has been saying that, like, is he shifting his thinking, which luckily RH is humble enough to do, that like Ethereum's just not going to go to where he thought it was going to this cycle, or at the very least he is planning for it. And I'm sure, you know, people say no regrets. I'm sure he kind of regrets the $3,900. Well, whoever bought the $3,900 ETH, you know, I'm sure it's somewhat regrettable, you know, being down 50%. You can't call everything right. But could this be kind of like I got to pull out all the stops, and if it's like we just kind of looked at advertising the wreckage like Solana had, or whatever other things, you know, the other strings he can pull, then maybe that's what he's doing. You know, I mean, could he be adjusting for Ethereum being horrible? You know,
I think when that move happened, there was more at play. I think he was worried that the MakerDAO or somebody were going to, because of the whole SEC, because that was about the timing. It was the very beginning of all this stuff before he kind of went into the court process, that all of that Ethereum was purchased. It may not have been an ideal time, but I think the reason it was done, and I think we've talked about this before, was to essentially stop anyone from freezing any kind of stable coin that was being held, because it was all Ethereum. And obviously you can't stop Ethereum, or you can't really invalidate it, because there's many ways around that. There's Tornado Cash, there's privacy ways, there's ways to get around that. So I honestly think that was the reason, but I do agree that, we aren't where maybe he thought we would be, and now you've got to drum up some excitement. That's very, very possible. I don't disagree with that either. So, but we still, how much excitement can you really drum up just by tweet storming? I don't know. I mean, there's activity, yes, but it's not buying, right? It's like we're not seeing any.
But there is. I mean, there's the chain activity is insane. I mean, and people, I mean, like, even though maybe it's still people with mostly already within this ecosystem, and again, retail is not even in crypto at large yet, so it's not like a unique to PulseChain. But we are seeing, we're talking about the spaces, we're talking about all the streams. People are at a fever pitch right now. There's tons of activity on the chain. I went to do a swap 2 nights ago, and it was $3 for a swap on PulseChain.
Yeah,
I mean, like literally more, maybe more than Ethereum at that time.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, I get where you're coming from as far as like we're not seeing total green candles in the ecosystem yet, but there's plenty of activity on chain. We do know that. I mean, that's confirmed. The PulseX buy and burn is getting towards 7% now.
Yep.
And this kind of sleeping giant, when retail wakes up and comes here, whatever portion does, I'm just glad that we're percolating on all this right now. I get where you're coming from. Like, yeah, it's not like him just sending out 20 pDAI tweets a day is going to make us go to sack rate or whatever. But
right.
I do think everybody's fever pitch active. Like, regardless of what you think about the pDAI thing, a cult is being created again. Like, I mean, and people are trading. And, and again, we've always preached, and he's preached, and other people, about like holding PulseX, holding the casino that people are trading in. And there is activity massively, and a huge cult I mean, the pDAI cult is a strong one, and it's a strong narrative, and there's activity, which is great.
Yeah, that there is. So the one thing I don't like is and I think there's a major difference, and you may not agree. But they say there's a lot of people that are treating pDAI like the hexagons were treated by mainstream crypto in the beginning. And I don't see the correlation there, only because Hex wasn't broken. There wasn't a mint issue. Yes, there was some inflation, but that was part of the contract. It was like, I don't think that there was any correlation or similarity there, other than maybe the gatekeeping thing. But what do you think about that whole topic?
No, I agree that there's like some similarities, but like maybe some people did perceive it to be broken, though, in terms of Hex. Like, I know you didn't, and many others may not have, but being broken is also a little bit in the eye of the beholder, as we're seeing clearly, in markets, and it's happening with pDAI as well. I mean, there are people that feverishly can defend all of these transactions and show that the money's just being sent elsewhere, and it's the same person controlling it, or this or that, versus there being an exploit and taking money off of the chain. And I think with Hex, I mean, there was the same stuff as well. I mean, like, yeah, there were people that were diehard with Richard from the beginning that didn't perceive anything to be broken. But then we get to this bull market, and he himself evidently thought the inflation was too high. Whether you want to call it a bug or it's broken, I mean, those are just kind of adjectives. You know what I mean? But he did take action to lessen the hex inflation. In no way am I comparing hex, like what it does to pDAI. I don't mean anything like that. I just mean looking at something.
I wasn't either. I wasn't comparing products at all.
Right.
More the now people are saying that they're being gate kept by the hexagons or whatever, for whatever reason, and I'm not correlating the two of them. But
I think I think they largely are. I think they just feel like they're this cult from this cycle, and they look at I know we watched Bud on with Coexistence Steven over the weekend, and he had some choice words about like OG hexagons as a group, and I mean it's publicly available to watch. I'm not saying anything out of turn, but I do think the pDAI people, whether they're brilliant, insane, stupid, amazing, whatever you want to say, they do feel like, hey, we're like the cult of this cycle on this chain, and all these OGs who already made it. And whether I'm not saying this is right or not, I'm just saying this is what they probably feel. They're like, keeping their thumb on the little guy and wanting to censor us and shut us up. And some people are flat out wanting to censor it, which I don't ever agree with that. But yeah, I get that they can feel like that. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not defending. I just understand that vibe from somebody, I guess. That's all.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Go ahead and go through more and pick out what you want to look at here.
Sure.
RH bin.
If you see something,
let's see. I guess you can keep going. It's a weird GIF. Yeah, go ahead and keep going up. I think that one that probably came out like yesterday. If you keep going up here, we'll see.
Okay, these are still from the 23rd, so we're on 3 days ago.
Wait, let's see what this is.
You want
I guess if you want to read that one, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they all say. Yeah.
TLDR, if you're what he was saying above it here, I guess. Yeah,
I can read it real quick. I can do it.
Go ahead.
Do it. TLDR, if you're going to be a degenerate, do it on things that have less counterparty risk and perhaps more functionality. I don't like high inflation. The total liquidity, if you minted infinite pDAI and market sold right now, is 400K. So it's not really worth thinking about at all unless dum-dums keep buying the bad coin. Why buy a coin that sucks? The whales that own Maker on Ethereum could just come and do what they want to those contracts at will, right? You're sucking middlemen, but the middlemen don't even know or care you exist. You've been worried or warned about admin key risk by me a million times, right? That's probably one of the most straightforward sounding ones that he wrote. I mean, the other ones seem very cloaked, I guess, is the way I would put it. Or yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think it's. Or you have more to say about it? Go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think and I mentioned this to you earlier. Maybe it was before we started the stream, or earlier this afternoon we were chatting. I think people may, for the longest time, Richard was kind of quiet, and he would only say little things here and there, and it got to be to the point where everybody tried to decode what he was saying. Is Richard speaking in code? Is he telling us something without telling us something? And now I feel like he's being pretty straightforward. Like when I read these things, I feel like he's being pretty straightforward with a lot of them. The one that had the question marks, I was a little confused by, but then I was like, well, maybe he's like can't come out and say it, but then he did, like pretty soon after that. So I just feel like people are trying to decode things that maybe aren't even there, that don't need decoding, when you probably just read it and take it at face value. I think people are trying to dig a little deep, is my thought on some of these things. This isn't one of them. I agree. This is pretty straightforward, and basically saying that the owners of Maker can do what they want with the contract, but will they? So
right, yeah, that's the thing. And then he actually, I don't know if it was this tweet, but he tagged them and said you could do something pretty funny or whatever. I forget what he said. There, right there. It's right down there below this.
Yeah, but he went on to say. The correct price for any inflation bug thing is near zero. Thought experiment. Some guy borrows pDAI for nearly nothing, sells it. Anything he makes is basically pure profit, which drives the pDAI price down, so he can pay back his loan, which he wouldn't need to do unless there was a borrowing cap, which there likely is. Or why not just nuke to zero in one go, like most inflation bugs. So then after he's bought back lower, he can just reborrow for free again, nuke again, rinse, repeat, just waiting for any green candle to sell down. Also, the holders of Maker on Ethereum have the keys to nearly all the Maker on PulseChain, and they could just execute the emergency shutdown feature. Good luck sucking that middleman D. Again, TLDR, who cares about bugged, riskly exploited fake stablecoin?
He kind of did for a while there, but
and I think he still does. I think I think the reason he cares about it is because there are people that are still dumping decent amounts into this.
Well, I'm saying he posted the chart like 15 times over the last.
It was a pretty chart. It was a pretty chart, and I think that was the reason. I don't know.
You knew with a whole lot of other ones, but I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm just the guy. I'm just pointing it out. I mean, I know some people think that everything he does is defensible, and I'm not even saying that he's did anything purposely malicious.
I know that you had brought up that the PTGC chart looks great as well. I think the reason for posting the charts for the longest time was to get the people that had free money over here to play. And PTGC isn't one of those coins. So unfortunately, that did not work out so well. And I don't know that he knew about this bug or whatever it is at the point when he was posting the chart 6-7 times. Maybe he did, but I don't know. Either way, he talks about this what's it called? Emergency shutdown feature. But then he goes on later to say most of you don't even know what it does. And I think that was here in this one, how little you guys know about Maker Protocol. And it goes on to kind of explain that whole shutdown feature. So if people want to go in and read it to learn a little bit more about it, it's all here too. I don't know that it does exactly what people say it does. I don't even really know what happens if they were to enact that. Do you?
I don't. I don't know. I don't really want to. We can bookmark this, but I don't know if I want to get into this with only like a half hour left in the show.
Fair enough.
I mean, I think it is good that he posted that, and we can check it out. I just want to check out some of the other stuff that he said first. That's all. But I believe that it's likely what he says.
Yeah.
Do you want to look at? Keep scrolling up because there is a couple other decent ones from the last couple of days. I do that's to you, and this is just you and me personally, because you just talked about like, oh, everybody likes to think that Richard's always speaking in code. I mean, I think including you, I think you do. Like when it came to his price chart earlier, there was more than meets the eye to just posting that chart. But in other instances,
but he didn't say anything, and that's why. That's like when he doesn't say anything, then you have to read into it. What's he getting at? Like, what's he showing us? Right?
Yeah.
But when he there was no post. It was just a picture. So that's kind of my argument as far as that goes. When he says things, I take them pretty much face value for what he's trying to say, or how I think listening to him for 7 years now. What I think he's saying is usually pretty straightforward. It's when he doesn't say anything that you kind of have to read into it. What's he showing us? There's something there, but what is it?
Yeah, and I do agree that the one we just read sounded more straightforward. But as you know, there's been many over the last week. I think we're probably already past this one, and that's fine. I don't want you to go back to it. But the one with like question marks after every single sentence.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to the one where it's exclamation points and all that stuff. I think some of them just look the way they do. I'm not saying specifically what the alternative meaning could be. That's for anybody to derive. But just the idea that there's a double meaning here. Not saying what it is, but just saying that there's a double meaning. The double meaning could be that Solana thing we just read about. It could be like, hey, wreckage actually brings attention. Like that could be all it is. It could be something as innocent as that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah. Anyway, what else you want to look at here? If you,
I don't know. Here is where he says pDAI had 6 billion supply at fork, now has 24. So you didn't get that. Inflation exploiters did.
Let me ask you this. So a minute ago on that other tweet, he says like the correct price for anything with an inflation bug is 0. How come pDAI is not 0 and actually has like a fantastic chart from the beginning? I know Crypto 7, you keep quoting what it's done like in the last 2 weeks or whatever, but I mean, it's vastly up on all core tokens and every meme token that you've mentioned.
Well, from the
Oh,
beginning, yes. I don't think they started exploiting until 2 months ago, and nobody paid attention to it. So, or maybe nobody knew about it. I don't know that a lot of people knew it was happening, because they weren't studying wallets. They just saw all this activity. Not until someone said, "Hey, this is one guy that's 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 extracting value, bridging out of the chain." So that's another concern of mine, that if this was somebody that really was doing something behind the scenes, maybe that we weren't supposed to know about, I, I don't know that value would be getting completely extracted over to Ethereum and gone. I think it would at least stay on the chain that we're trying to promote here and support. With money in the bridge, it still helps the value of everything. So anyway, that's just that. But all right, what do we have here?
Whatever you want to pick. I think we're getting kind of towards recent stuff here. So
yeah, this is all like 20, 21 hours ago. So this is all within the last day.
why don't you find, unless there's something else that catches your eye, find the one where it's the exclamation points and all that stuff. Wait, was that it? There, it's that, I think. Congratulations to the multiple exploiters minting pDAI out of thin air today and selling it on PulseChain. One exploiter is even messaging you on chain. This is funny. Today, explaining how he's doing it. One of the new accounts minted 180K worth today, and the one that sent this message only minted like 12K. How many more exploiters will figure out the free money hack? It's just like this is what I mean. Like, what's the purpose of saying it that way? It's just, it looks like an advertisement, like calling back to that tweet that we had earlier. It's like he's live keeping up with it and then breaking down all the weird stuff within it. Like I forget what the person said. I read it earlier today. It was weird, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he basically said, it's funny when people say I have unlimited mint rights on DAI. Funny. So let me explain how I work. Exactly telling you what this is, kind of what we talked about earlier, is how they take advantage of the Oracle and get loans. So this tells all that story here. So no sense in reading it again.
I mean, I don't know, like the other one, I agree, objectively sounded like he was literally like warning people and being direct and all that. This one sounds like the ethos of that Solana tweet that he made. This sounds like, hey, check this out. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know why he's wording it that way. That's all.
And maybe two birds, one stone kind of thing. So
Maybe.
This is more to that. Like that whole post goes on in several.
Wait, let's actually read this. So why can't they just send it? Why can't they just send it to 0 instantly like most inflation bugs? Well, the bug requires you to know how to use DeFi contracts that don't have front ends. Few people do, and it might require you to get an entire block of gas all to yourself to run all the transactions you need. Who's the real final boss? Well, if you look at the liquidity, it looks like someone can mint a Tropa out of thin air. That's actually the first time I've ever seen him reference that. I don't know if you remember him referencing a Tropa ever before, but
no, not by name.
He says, I know nothing about it. They can harvest 2 billion pDAI out of the liquidity in the PulseX pair. LOL, the coin only had 6 billion total supply at the fork. Oh, well. If any of the maker guys want to come over and edit the contracts, they could infinite mint as well. Why can't it be fixed? Because the emergency shutdown function doesn't even do what people think it does. And there's not enough PMaker for sale on the chain to even try and hit the apparently 150K PMaker to trigger it. And even if you did trigger it, it doesn't do what you think it does. Read the docs if you wish, which he posted earlier. Why do I break the links? Because X doesn't allow you to. TLDR, 6 billion supply of pDAI at fork. Now it has 24. You didn't get that inflation. Exploiters did. Why do you think they'll stop exploiting? Why would you buy this trash? There's better trash. Why play Russian roulette versus all the hackers and P-maker holders? Influencers just make your own coin called pDAI if you want to shill that, which, I mean, people are pretty much done. Well, he thinks this is all very funny, evidently. So there's that. I don't know. What do you make of this? Because, I mean, it can read like this is like a massive problem to the chain, but there's also jokes and stuff mixed in, kind of. So I don't know.
Well, I think he's laughing because people aren't getting what he's trying to tell them. I mean, people continue to buy it and more of it. So
so the person can't be stopped, basically. It sounds like what he's saying.
It sounds like what he's saying is, yeah, if we keep feeding that person, they can't be stopped. Only the people that have the P maker can really do anything about it. And as far as I understand, only the people that have previous vaults on the Ethereum chain are the ones able to run the exploit. So there's a few of them. I know there were chat rooms of engineers and devs trying to figure it out, but I think the piece of the puzzle that they were missing is that they didn't have an existing vault with the keys to, you know what I mean? So they didn't have a vault on Ethereum side to play around with trying to do this on PulseChain side. So
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just reading. We've had like a ton of comments. I just noticed. I was trying to go through. So if you want to see if there's any other part you want to read, I want to see if I can pop up a couple comments here over the next 20 minutes to wrap us up.
I don't think there really is a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that was the
last. We're pretty much. I mean,
let's see here.
Other than someone should make an extractor meme, and that's his. Maybe, I don't know. Did he create that meme?
Yeah, I saw. He shared it anyway. So what do you make of this? I know you're gonna hate this, but here's Grandpa Pulse, old Grandpa Pulse. There are question marks. So the question mark post that you and I were referencing, and 15 minutes later on chain, they're answered with a purchase of 3,000 Nope tokens. I saw that too for on chain sleuths that. Right after that tweet, a bunch of Nope tokens were bought, and then I forget what was done. I don't know if they were sold for pDAI or what exactly happened. But
let's take a little look-see here at the wallet that we know of anyway that was doing the majority, and see if there's anything new. I don't think that the Nope had anything to do with it. I mean, I've seen all kind of. There's hex transactions. There's what's this one? Some sort of, I don't even know what the hell that icon is. It's a little heart.
Probably saw me.
There's Psycho token. Oh, these scam people are sending. So I mean, there's also people sending this address. It looks like people are trying to send Psycho, and it may be a bad coin with a vulnerability. There's Math token, there's Cent token, there's DAI LP, there's C3. Like there's a ton of transactions when you go. There's pDong. Which is
that's
funny.
that's the Vietnam guy.
Yeah. But again, when you see 91 million DAI forked out, and then you see some swaps later on. Yeah, it really, here's 500,000. It's only $14. But yeah, I mean, there's just tons of constant transactions going through this. Here's one for 5 million. 138 got taken out. There's not too much in the last day or so. There's another 500,000 for, here's the Nope. Bought more Nope. Here's $1,500 worth of DAI. Got swapped somehow. Oh, that's why all that. 1 million DAI for $2,000, $1 million DAI for 2,000, $1 million DAI for
I saw
2,000.
those.
So those were on the 24th, which was 2 days ago. There was, 6-8 grand taken right there. Yeah, I don't think the note had anything to do with it. I mean, there's there's buying most as well. I think it's just to throw people off. Now, there were a bunch of failed transactions as well.
Right.
I don't know what was happening there, whether they couldn't get the entire block. And I have a feeling that's what was going on, because it was mentioned before that you pretty much need the entire block to do all the transactions that need to happen. And I think that's why these were all failing, because it was mint efficient. They're all the same function.
Right.
And if you can't grab an entire block, it doesn't work. So I just have a feeling that's what was happening.
Well, there's a lot of on-chain research going on that what I don't like about it is a lot of people make assumptions, and the thing I'm not smart enough with it to refute any of them necessarily, but I think that people make assumptions on stuff without 100% knowing what they're talking about. And one thing to kind of put a bow, I guess, on all this is that I was thinking about this earlier today, whether it's people that are like supporting pDAI or believe there's more than meets the eye, or the people that are vehemently against it and pissed at the people talking about it and stuff like that. One thing that everybody has in common is they're probably down bad on their bags right now. And I think everybody is basically just coming from a point of scarcity in this market right now, because we have all mostly been down for the majority of it. And it's not, any one person's fault or anything like that. It's just what the market is. It is the model, I think, of how a lot of people got into Pulse. Obviously, you do a sacrifice at the top of the last market, and there's just too many people in, and then you get underwater like this for a while. And then, as we've talked about, like the biggest topic on the show that we've spent the least amount of time on is the fact that Ethereum's $2,000. That will help. And yeah, Valiant low key. I think we can agree with this. Regardless of how we got here, pDAI and PulseChain have massive mind share now. RH must use this opportunity wisely for the good of all, or he risks living forever in infamy. Just IMO. I mean, yeah, you make a good point. I mean, like a lot of the mainstream channel. I mean, there are mainstream channels that like will never talk about it. Like it does not matter what PulseChain does, what Hex does, what Richard does. Nothing. They will call it a scam rug to the bitter end. It really doesn't matter. That's just what they're going to do, because Richard doesn't like play the game, and we don't play the game of, paying people off and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, you got like Ivan on Tech talking about it and stuff. I mean, like it is something that there's very little going on in crypto right now. Like it seems very quiet out there outside of this craziness in our little silo. And I do wonder, and Ivan on Tech's picking up on it, like how much this does kind of spread, as things pick up.
Yeah, other than Ben being in jail, there's not much going on.
Yeah.
I don't see a whole lot of news. I mean, I guess real quick, maybe we can talk about the whole Rabby thing if you want to.
Yes, I started a comment earlier. Let's do that. So Rabby wallet, in case you guys missed it today, and I want to be clear about like what this actually means, because I don't want everybody to do the stupid MEXC thing that we all did, and myself included, where it's like they're asking for more money to list our token again, these sons of bitches, And with Rabby, it's like, what do you mean you're not integrating PulseChain anymore? So I sent you, I forget whose tweet I sent you. There were a lot of PulseChain people who retweeted this today with a screenshot of what was being shown in the Rabby wallet. If you just want to show that for the screenshot purpose.
I think it was the one. Yeah, I have it here. Hang on.
Yeah.
I think it was the Super Hex one.
Yeah, I think.
There we go.
Okay. So, yeah, PulseChain will soon not be integrated. Just a weird way of saying that. So,
very strange. I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, it says PulseChain chain will not be integrated on 3/30/25. Your assets won't be affected, obviously, but won't be included in your total balance. To access them, you may add it as a custom network in settings. So let's actually talk about what that means, because, and Andrew, thank you for asking this question. Does anybody know why Rabby is disabling integration with Pulse? Rabby's a great wallet. It's so disappointed. KG's wallet doesn't even have a browser. He's referring to Internet Money Wallet. We've had KG on here, and I know Ewok has used it some. Let me ask you, Ewok, what do you look at this Rabby thing as saying, because to me, it's just that, and again, then maybe this is a big deal, I guess, I don't know, but they just don't have the RPC on there by default. And then it was pretty how all your tokens would display and the values and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But basically now it would be that you would have to add a custom RPC, much like you would to MetaMask, which many people
exactly.
are familiar with. So
Exactly. I don't think anything is going to change. I think they're just saying it's soon not going to be integrated as part of the default. Are they adding more things and saying, well, we don't want to take the space up? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. The reason I don't think there's anything bad. I don't think I heard rumors. Oh, it's because the pDAI thing. You guys can't get your shit together. You can't all agree on anything.
but of course, that's what so many people are
Well,
saying.
right,
Because
but I don't agree with any of that.
okay,
I
glad to hear
switched
that.
to I switched to Rabby. I love it. I was having a lot of issues with MetaMask, and when I switched to Rabby, they all of them went away. All the problems that I was having, just interacting with certain contracts, things like that, it all went away. So I do like it, and it's not hard to add in the custom network setting. We all know the way to do it, and if you don't, there's plenty of videos out there, tutorials on showing you how. So I hope people don't hang themselves by setting these guys on fire too.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on. I know I saw something from Coffee a little bit earlier saying that he has what duck season?
It's because Rabby lists duck chain, but they have duck chain integrated, but not pulse chain
Oh,
now.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coffee sent them a letter, like he
I saw
Coffee.
that.
So I mean, I think with the right approach, we can maybe have them just leave it. But we don't know why they're not having it integrated on their main platform anymore.
I
Is
think,
there maybe there's only a certain amount they can, like they only
well,
have
I
certain space.
I think they did some response that was just kind of a stock,
Probably.
non-explainer. And it's probably, I saw somebody hypothesize that it's like, they're Ethereum based and Ethereum people don't like Richard and blah, blah, blah. Just the same kind of stuff that always happens. And maybe it is a challenge to integrate it. I mean, the same thing with MEXC. There was all kinds of stuff that we didn't understand about an exchange listing in MEXC that Panos did on that one stream that we talked about. I mean, there's probably stuff within the wallet that we don't understand either. But this just means that the RPC isn't in there by default. That's what that means. Is it a
I,
loss? I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I actually, and I'm not bashing Rabby. I'm not saying anything one way or the other. I'm just talking about my own user experience. To me, I didn't love it when I started using it. I like the ability to actually pop it out and be able to view it instead of just having the extension, which I could never figure out. Maybe it's just me and I'm an idiot and I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, I think look, all these products have their own positives and negatives. And I mean, it'd be nice that PulseChain is integrated to it, but I'm not shedding tears over it either or anything like that. So, or taking it
well,
personally.
the one reason I went to Rabby instead of Internet Money, and maybe the chat can, if they use Internet Money to do this, I was told that it wouldn't interact very well with the Hex contract. So I didn't even bother. I just went straight to Rabby, and everything seemed to work. So I didn't look twice. Now I do have a Internet Money wallet that I do hold the time token, and you get paid dividends on that. So that's where I keep those because it's easy just to weekly or every other week or whatever claim your dividends, and it is a sizable amount. I mean, it's not chump change. It's good, it covers the gas that I use basically weekly. So not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I like it for that. It makes it nice and easy. But, as far as the Hex contract, I heard that it didn't interact well. So if the chat could chime in at least on that, if they know that it does or doesn't, then that'd be cool.
I'm sure KG would give you an answer. I saw they did Internet Money. KG and some guys did a space today actually regarding some of that. Well, in response to the Rabby thing, really. But
yeah.
And then when I tuned in, they were all talking about pDAI. So there you go. Good looking out, Fast Abdul. That's good to know too. He posted a link to the link to their Rabby Discord on Twitter. Everybody tell Rabby why we love them on PulseChain. And yeah, Ewok, I mean, yeah, you pretty much raved about Rabby from the minute you started using it. I know Randy Hilarski was talking about it before it was even, very popular. I remember him talking about it like 2 years ago. So
well, somebody else had commented on there. I forget what page it was, whether it was the reviews, that they only had like 88 reviews. And that PulseChain could probably really help them out in that area, depending on when they filled it out, and whether it was before or after they unintegrated it. So,
right,
they may want to.
Now that they've unintegrated it, I don't know if they want the reviews or not.
Right, I don't know that they want them. So, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So that's what's, I mean, I don't think it's the worst news in the world. It's just another thing that's happening right now. Whatever. I mean, I get it's very hard for people to feel like extremely positive right now. Like some people obviously have been here before, not exactly in this unique of a weird place, but we've been in weird bottoms of markets. There was massive doubt about Hex at the beginning that we've covered here tonight. We have lots of OGs in the chat tonight that still show their faces, are still around, and are creating content in one form or the other. Johnny Chaos, Fast Abdul, Crypto 7, a lot of people in here that have been here since the beginning, Tam. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those interesting. Interesting is the word that people keep using. I mean, like this argument about pDAI is just something that has been very fascinating, from one end to the other. And I do, from us, Ewok, going back and reading some of RH's tweets over the last few days and him talking about Solana and it kind of coming up from the wreckage and stuff, I really believe that was him thinking out loud a bit about like, well, how can we turn some of this into attention and stuff like that? But what does Johnny have here?
Yeah, and this is getting old. Like, I mean, I completely agree with Johnny. Nomics supported them. They screwed us. It went on to OKX, MEXC, Rabby. Every time we get an ally, something seems to happen. And it just kind of over and over again, it sucks. So, yeah, I definitely agree with where he's coming from.
It does, but I wonder if it's just kind of the nature of the beast of like we said a minute ago, like RH isn't paying anybody. We're not paid. We don't pay anybody. I mean, we paid MEXC, obviously, but, when you don't play their game, they're going to want to cater to people that are playing their game.
It's a pay-to-play environment, and, everybody knows it. Everybody admits it. Even the big influencers, they get paid to talk about things. And, Richard doesn't play that game. He never post-allocated any tokens to any of them. In fact, he basically came out and said, "Fuck you, I want you to buy higher."
Yeah, right. Quite literally.
If you're gonna like rub it in their face, they're even more likely to not talk good things about you. So yeah, is it is.
We do now know what it feels like to be pegged by a rabbit, I guess. Which I don't know how that would feel, but probably not.
I have to break out my old rabbit foot. Good luck charm.
Lucky rabbit's foot. Holy shit, I forgot they existed. Very weird phenomenon. Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting bent over by rabbits out here. We got peas dying and all kinds of weird stuff. But we are here. I definitely did not feel like streaming tonight just because I'm tired and sick of talking about some of this shit. But here we are. We're here. We're showing our faces. Ewoks. Yeah, I know, battling through some stuff, and it's not unique to us. I know everybody's got stuff going on, and everybody who continues to show their face and be around in this, I tip my hat to. It's hard work, and again, it's not like we're getting paid for it, and our investments are in the tank too. So yeah, we appreciate all of you guys being here tonight. Red Bull Vodka, I named the 3 influencer guys there, Hex Girl as well. Grandpa Pulse is in here talking all the pDAI stuff, people not liking it. We got Poster Beats, and a lot
DGen
more.
Moonboy made a quick appearance and then he took off. So
he dipped out. Yep. Mr. Smacka 22 and a lot more. We appreciate you guys. If you are still here, please do hit the like button, help support the channel. We're going to be here every week until the bitter end of time. So, it'll be interesting to see where, as the pDAI world goes next week. And I'm just hoping prices, something we don't agree on. Let's get Ethereum to maybe $2,500 or something like that. I think that would
works
be
for me. It's a good start.
Decent. Yeah. So appreciate you guys. We will be back here next week. It will be April. Will we get an April Fool here next week? We shall see. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See ya.